Here we go, it's the Kopite Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Kopite Podcast. I'm Mick Moran, joined as usual by Jay, and we're also pleased to be joined by big Fulham fan Russ Goldman to cover all things Fulham. Cheers for coming on, Russ. How's things over in the States?
Things are great. I'm outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and actually the sun is up. It's early morning here, but I'm looking forward to talking about Liverpool and Fulham.
Yeah, that shows the commitment getting up at 8 o'clock to do this with us. So we appreciate that. But we'll dive straight in. Obviously, the game's tomorrow. 4:30 kickoff at Craven Cottage. So let's just start with you guys. Obviously, your current form. You're unfortunately 17th in the league on 7 points. Got 2 wins against West Brom and Leicester, which was a great win against the good Leicester side. It wasn't surprising because obviously Fulham have got a good side as well, but Leicester are doing really well. So that was a great win. What have you made of the job Scott Parker's done so far?
Well, it's funny because to be honest, with talking about Scott Parker and the club, you really have to go back to really get a gauge of where Fulham are now to the championship final. Because again, it wasn't that long ago, and Fulham did not have a lot of time to build their squad. You know, again, you're talking about less than a month. So Fulham, I knew were going to be behind the 8 ball when it came to coming into the Premier League. When you go through the championship playoff situation, you know, again, you are definitely lacking time. So it was going to be a difficult ask, but I had a feeling that they would figure it out eventually. Unfortunately for Fulham, it took a while till probably the end of the window, the summer transfer window, to really get the squad that we hoped. And I think that has been part of the problem that we have with the transition, because you're transitioning from a team that was in the championship, and in the beginning of the season, you're still playing many of those players as you bring in these new players. And Fulham had serious weakness in the back. That's where everything needed to start. And unfortunately, it took to the end of the window to get the 2 center backs that Fulham really needed. And I truly believe that had a lot to do with some of the issues that they were having. And, you know, when you go up in class, I mean, you know, again, nothing against the championship, but it is a completely different window, a different class. I'm not window. That's a Goldman. Every time we make a mistake on Cottage Talk, we call it a Goldman. There's a class of Goldman for you. But honestly, when I look back at the beginning of the season, and I knew that it was going to be hard, I knew we really wouldn't see what this team was going to really turn into until later on, earlier in the season, meaning the first half of the season, because it was going to take a time to get these players all to gel. And what's funny about it is if you look at the team now, the majority of the players that played in the championship aren't even getting involved, except for a few players. You know, you're talking Mitrovic, you're talking Kearney, and you know, and beyond, and actually the last couple of matches they haven't even been starting. You're talking about a complete back 5 guys, complete change of your goalkeeper, which was an upgrade, and your back 4. It's really insane. And then you're bringing back Anguissa, who actually I think has been Fulham's best player. So you're integrating him back in from being in Spain at Villarreal. So many different pieces, so many different players. And Scott Parker has a distinct style we call Parker ball. It's possession-based football. And, you know, at times it can look like the roach nowhere because it could be passing back and forth. But as the team has progressed, he has unleashed them a little bit to be more expansive. But for the most part, think of Scott Parker as a player. That is Parker ball. That is really Parker ball. But what's been interesting lately, and I'll be curious to see what Scott Parker does against Liverpool if he takes the same route. I would call that he's come up with a plan B, meaning a plan B way of playing, a different side of Fulham. And we saw that against Leicester City, where it was he went with 5 at the back. And he actually took a risk, well, I thought a huge risk, by playing Bobby Decker-Dover-Reid as a wingback. I don't think he's ever played wingback. But you know what? It worked really well because we have the pace moving forward. And that's how we really got to Leicester City. We just beat them on the break. So we went from a possession-based team against the majority of the league. Then we faced Leicester City and went to a counter-attacking team, and it really worked. Now, He tried to do it again against Man City, and Man City just pressed the crap out of us.
Yeah.
And every time we got the ball on the break, they just got it right back, and it just filtered right back. So what will Scott Parker do? I don't know, because as you guys will attest to this, Liverpool will press Fulham as well. So I don't know what his game plan is going to be against Liverpool. I would think that it would still be this counterattacking style, but we shall see.
Yeah, and like you said, it's difficult when you've got so many new players coming. Like it doesn't happen overnight. Like I watched the full. The most I've watched it is when you played against Everton. Obviously, you played really well in that game. You missed that crucial penalty that obviously killed any chance you win in that game. But
Don't
like
get
you
me
said,
started on penalties, by the way. Don't get me started on that.
But yeah, like you said, like the likes of Lookman and Loftus-Cheek were both on loan, and you said also Anguissa, who I'm also a big fan of. You're going to need to keep those type of players around. Obviously, if you get relegated again this season, it's just you don't want to turn into another yo-yo team like a West Brom,
right?
Where you're constantly bouncing up and down. So you need to. Do you think Scott Parker is the man to deliver that for you, to keep you in the Premier League this season?
If you would have asked me that a year ago, I would have my doubts. And it's funny because he was not my choice. And I'm open when I say this, that I wanted a proven manager, a Premier League manager, when we went down to the Championship. But the Cons decided to go with Scott. And honestly, he has matured as a manager as his time being in charge of Fulham. I have to give him full credit because, like I said, what I've seen from him is his ability to learn on the job, to change things and not be so rigid. He is rigid in the building blocks, but he is willing to change. And I think we've seen that growth. So if he continues to make adjustments and play against the opponent, that's what he's been doing. He is actually making adjustments against the opponent. I think he is the right man. And until, and again, I don't want anyone else. I don't care what situation Fulham are in. Say they go through a bad losing streak. I've already said I want them to stick with Scott Parker. This is the choice you made. We've had so many changes in managers. And 2 seasons ago, we changed it 3 times. I don't want to see that again. Just stick with him. And I just, I like the way that he has grown into the role as the manager. So the answer is I do have faith in him.
Yeah, and Dan's made a good point here. He says Fulham actually have some European caliber players. Shame they didn't have these players versus Arsenal. They could have won that for sure.
Very good point.
And it's like you said, but you need to keep these guys around. Like if you say, for example, you signed Lookman and Loftus-Cheek on permanent deals, which would both be great signings.
Yep.
It's about keeping those type of players. And like you said, you've already got Mitrovic, who's obviously Premier League proven anyway. He's proven he can do it in the Premier League. It's just getting the form and getting the players around him that can supply him, because obviously he's great in the air. You just need those players on the wing maybe that can float those balls into him where he can start banging in a few more goals, and that'll set you on your way to staying up this season, which is the ultimate goal, isn't it?
Yeah. Listen, 2 years ago, I took the mantra that I wanted Fulham to compete with the Liverpools and the Man Cities, and boy, was I wrong. I looked at the players that they brought in, the Jean-Michel Series, who unfortunately was a huge bust, and some other players, and thought, okay, Fulham are taking the idea that they wanted to compete against everyone, which I respected. But the idea now, listen, if you look at Aston Villa, stay in the league. Just stay in the league year 1 and then build from there. So for me, it's just about survival. It's about 17th. And I truly believe with a couple of additions that, listen, they need another striker to help out Mitrovic. They definitely do. And they need a couple more pieces. But I do think that they generally have a lot of pieces to stay in this league. And so I'm extremely hopeful, guys. Again, we're 17th right now. But for me, this team is nothing like the team 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, I agree. And
they're tougher to beat. 2 seasons ago, they were very easy to beat. They're much tougher to beat, and I'll have to give a lot of credit to Scott Parker on that.
Yeah, and that's I think that's what you just said, Russ. It's the testament to the players he's brought in to give a bit more steel in midfield and not to be overly easily overrun. But let's get on to Liverpool a little bit. Obviously, our form. I was looking before because I was interested in this, like our away form. Obviously, we're near the top of the league. Obviously, joint top at the moment, but we haven't won any of our last 4 away Premier League games. We've drawn 3 and lost 1. So that was a bit of a surprise. Obviously, we've played seems like a load of games recently. Does that surprise you, Jay, in terms of that one? Because I was surprised by that. Obviously, when you look back through them, it was like Aston Villa, Everton, all those games that we don't look back on fondly, but they seem like a long time ago, don't they, those games?
It does, considering like every 3 days we're playing a game of footy. But, you know, when we look at the playing away to Chelsea and you're getting a result, and then you're playing away to the Everton, we draw, which is something that just happens every year at Goodison now, and then we draw at City. So we think like stats can be looked at one way and they can be looked at positively and negatively. You can look at it as a positive. We've been to Chelsea, Goodison and the Etihad, and we've not been beat, you know. So, and then obviously you look at the Villa game, but we won't talk too much about that. But the Brighton game was frustrating for obvious reasons. We should have picked up 3 points there. I tell you, like the two years ago when we played, was it two? No, it wasn't. It was last March, wasn't it? March 2019 when we played Fulham, Craven Cottage. Yep. We scraped a win. And we got, sort of like last 10 minutes, James Milner scores a penalty, and our old friend Ryan Babel gets a goal against us, doesn't he? So I'm nervous for it, mate, I'll be honest, because of the way the football is at the minute and stuff like that. And, it's difficult with VAR, and there's loads of factors going into the game, but our away form does need to improve in that way in terms of putting points on the board from that perspective. Yes, it does. If we look at it as black and white as we do. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game regardless, because we're not travelling well at the minute as the paperwork looks. But just Craven Cottage last year was nerve-wracking, so it will be for me again.
Yeah, and if like I was looking as well, like you know what I'm like with stats, like I love looking through them all. It's an opportunity to keep back-to-back Premier League clean sheets since June. That's a mad one. That's a mad one. Obviously, like towards the end of last season, we were kind of on autopilot because we'd already had it sewn up and whatever else. But yeah, it's obviously losing Van Dijk and losing Gomez. The fact that we've done really well, we just haven't. We've been winning games but not keeping clean sheets. So that's another motivator tomorrow, isn't it? Obviously, like you said, Craven Cottage isn't an easy place to go, especially with the setup that Scott Parker's got there. They'll obviously be wanting to counter attack us, but the more clean sheets, the better, isn't it? Especially with like I don't know who's going to start tomorrow. I hope it's going to be Fab and Matip, but you might see Phillips in there. So the more clean sheets, the better at the moment. And then just so we can just keep going until obviously Wednesday next week, where it seems like everything's riding on against Spurs.
Yeah, I'll happily sacrifice a clean sheet Sunday for keeping a clean sheet Wednesday, 100%. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, clean sheets do get your points on the board. So it's one of them things where the way that when the season started, we were all about the clean sheets, considering how the end of last season finished. And like you said, we'd sewn it up, so we get maybe a bit lackadaisy about it. But the way the season's gone with all the injuries and stuff like that, I don't care about clean sheets as long as we're getting points on the board at the minute. Really don't give a shit. Yeah, really don't care. But 3 points is the most important thing. Yeah,
100% agree there. In terms of our side, then, Russ, who are you most worried about facing? Obviously, Diego Yotta's, I think he's been confirmed he's going to be out tomorrow, and we don't know what the extent of that injury is. It could be a serious one, according to Paul.
Well, that helps Fulham because I'm very fearful of Jota. So that's actually for you guys. That's a little bit of a blow, but you have so many players at every position to worry about. But for me, it's funny. I was asked which Liverpool player would I like on Fulham the most, and before he finished saying it, it just came out Salah. It's Salah. I mean, for me, it's always going to be Salah. It's funny. I mean, Mane as well, but for me, it really is Salah. That's the player that I'm always fearful of because he can always create something, and that's what separates great players from players that are going to be all-time great players. I think he's going to go down in history as one of the greatest players. That's how I feel about him. Again, maybe, obviously, you have your Messis and Ronaldos, but I'm just talking about right now, Salah is right up there, guys. And that's how I feel about him.
Yeah, I think even among Liverpool fans, we've touched on this loads, haven't we, Jay? Like in terms of the love for Mo Salah isn't quite as great as the love for Sadio Mane. I don't know if that's
Why is that?
I think it's kind of the Chelsea history where he went to Chelsea, it didn't work out, and I think rival fans kind of use that as a way to say, oh well, he's not that good because he didn't do the first time round. Whereas when he's came back to the country, he didn't have to. He's came back to prove a point, and he's gone on to do like you said, Russ, unbelievable things.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, his goal scoring record is up there with the best of them. But obviously, like we said, Jota looks like he's out. But good news, on the good news side, we've got Alisson Becker, who's trained yesterday, and he'll be back in contention. And same for Oxlade-Chamberlain, back in the squad. That's great news, isn't it, Jay? Obviously, Keller has done absolutely tremendous deputising in his absence, but having Alisson back in there and having Ox back as an option is great news, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the lad. I think his attitude's brilliant. I think he was questioned a lot when we signed him, but I think when he comes in the side and he gets a decent run, he's a player that we can utilise really, really well, and he does have that bit of a driving force from the midfield into the forward line, which is what we've missed a lot over the years. But yeah, pleased to see him back. But let's not rush him back. I won't be throwing him in the game. I won't be starting him or anything like that. Let's just see how it goes with him. Because like you said, you got to wrap him in cotton wool sometimes, because every time the options come back from injury and he's played, he's then got injured again. So let's just take our time with him because we've got options in midfield. But yeah, having Alisson back, mate, is fantastic news. I know Klopp said in his presser yesterday that if he came through training, he'd be in contention for Sunday. And again, if Kelleher starts or Alisson starts, I will have no qualms about either one, mate, because Kelleher has done brilliantly. He's probably paid a lot more than he thought he would at the beginning of the season. He could not play a game for the rest of the season and go, do you know what? I've had my appearances. I'm sound with that. That's been nice. But obviously, it'd be nice for him to carry on because he's quite confident at the minute. So yeah, so Kelleher's back. So Kelleher will play, and Kelleher's understudy might play as well.
Love that little joke. But Russ, in terms of, obviously, I'm looking at the lineup for your last game against Man City. Do you imagine any changes to that for this one? Obviously, you were away to Man City. Do you think you'll have a different setup at home against us?
Well, it's fascinating. Again, I'm not sure exactly what Scott Parker is going to do. There are two players that have been left out the starting 11 that are just starters, and that's Mitrovic and Kearney. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what Scott Parker does here, because if you look at this starting 11, I could see him going with that again, even though Loftus-Cheek did not play well at all against Man City. And honestly, Cavallero shouldn't be starting, but he's doing a job for Scott Parker, and Scott Parker really likes Cavallero and believes in him. So, it's funny. It just matters on how Parker wants to play it. I think, and again, my co-host said that he believes Mitro is going to be back and Kearney's going to be back. But that means that there'll be a switch of a few players switching around. You know what? I'm going to go with Giannis, my co-host. I'm going to say that Kearney and Mitro will be back, and that you'll see someone like Ruben Loftus-Cheek on the bench again. He just didn't play well, and the conundrum that Parker has is trying to fit all these players on the pitch at the same time. Because our big talking point has been, can you play Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Kearney together? Because their best roles are the same role. So how do you play them together? Yeah. And he actually had Ruben Loftus-Cheek in a few matches out wide, and he was a passenger. So you really shouldn't be doing that. And Kearney can't play out wide either. So I'll be curious to see how he mixes and matches this. But I think besides those two players, I think you're going to see the majority of the same team.
Yeah, and like you said, it's difficult because you've just came up from the Championship. You're trying to build a team to stay in the league. You've got to kind of learn on the job, like all these players. Same with Scott Parker, he's kind of learning as he goes, and it's just a shame. Like you said, you've got to try and fit these players in, and he's working out his best team as the weeks go on. Like how to set up against the best teams, how to set up against the worst teams. And that's why I think tomorrow, like you said, with Mitrovic, I've got a feeling that Klopp might start Nat Phillips, just purely because up against Mitrovic, like Nat Phillips is an absolute monster in the air. So we might see a Matip Phillips centre-half pairing and Fabinho back into centre midfield just in front of the back four. Would you agree with that one, Jay?
Yeah, I would, mate. Phillips hasn't played for a while, so I would suspect for him to get a game. So yeah, I'd be happy to see Phillips in there because I do like him. He's a good player. He's got a really, really great talent. Definitely one for the future for us to look at. And I'd like I said, any centre back pairing at the minute, you've got to be happy with given our situation.
Yeah, definitely. But before we move on to other stuff, actually, let's go for that first. We'll do score predictions at the end. So obviously, let's talk a bit about. about the Red Sox, Russ. Obviously,
Sure.
you're from around that area in Boston, Massachusetts. Obviously, you've seen firsthand the impact that obviously our current owner, John Henry, has had on the club. Were you surprised he decided to take the plunge on a Premier League team? Obviously, we touched on it before we started recording about the feel about Liverpool in Boston. Can you just expand on that a bit more for us now?
Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't surprised. And at the time, I thought it was great for Liverpool. And I saw all the commentary and skepticism with John Henry. And I kept telling people, say, hey, listen, he will do right by you. He's not like your former owners that were American. That was my first thought. It's like, don't judge him by who you used to have as owners, because he's not like that. He is willing to spend. The issue John Henry had, especially in the beginning periods with Liverpool, was honestly didn't know football. And I think that was a problem. Again, he wanted to spend a lot of money. He made some changes and he made some mistakes. I think Andy Carroll is the biggest mistake he made. And I think he wanted to make a splash and just wanted to get that person in, that player in. And he overpaid for someone like Andy Carroll. It just didn't work. It wasn't the right fit for Liverpool. But over time, I think he's got people in there that know Liverpool, that that know what Liverpool needs, and they have brought in the right players. And John Henry will spend. The issue that he will have is that, and I don't know if it's happened yet with Liverpool, is that if there are, say, bad purchases, he does tend to hold back a little bit or push back a little bit, maybe like a window or two, but then he'll go back and start spending again. So that's something that he's done with the Red Sox. But for me, it's funny because there's been this love-hate relationship here with Henry, because the fan bases are very similar. They want to win and they want stars at every position. Let's just be honest with the Red Sox. If you bring in a player that is at a lower level, the Red Sox fans are going to hate it. And I've noticed that the same thing with Liverpool. So when the Red Sox have had bad seasons, see, the Red Sox have it seems like they've always under Henry either won a World Series, been close, or they've been horrible. There is no in between. They've either been great or horrible. So when they're horrible, brings up the talk of, should John Henry sell the Red Sox? And that might shock you guys, but this has actually happened about 4 or 5 years ago, where the media here had a little bit of a campaign based on nothing, that they thought that John Henry might be selling. They're looking at some of the dealings that John Henry was doing. They were trying to read between the lines. But basically what they were trying to do was trying to put a little pressure on John Henry to see if he could potentially sell the Red Sox, which honestly is so ridiculous in my mind, because he did something that I'll always be indebted to. He brought a World Series to the Red Sox after 86 years. My grandfather never saw the Red Sox win. Generations went by. My father, before he passed away, got to see the Red Sox win the World Series. I will always be indebted to John Henry and FSG for that. And as I've seen with Liverpool, listen, he upgraded Anfield. He's brought in the players. He's done the same thing with the Red Sox. So I think he's been a great owner for the Red Sox. And based on what's been happening with Liverpool, I hope that the Liverpool supporters see that as well. If there's criticism, certainly understand that. But I think he's a great owner of sports teams.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love that you said there was, 1918 and the gap between 1918 and 2004, if I'm not correct, is huge for you to win a title. So John Henry comes in and he does that, and then for us football fans, 30 years was a very long wait.
Same thing, right?
He didn't do it immediately. It took him 10 years to do it, but that's what I love about the connection is John Henry has given generations of Red Sox fans, is that this new generation, he gave them a title, which generations had never seen it. Same with us. There's been generations of people that haven't seen Liverpool win a title, obviously on a very small margin, and then we've ended up winning a title. So he'll always be held in high regard for that. One of the things that I thought we want to pick up from, you said about 5 years ago, there was like the media was trying to hound him out and question whether he won it. But then when you won the World Series in 2018, did that just completely stop again?
It stopped again. And, it's funny. Like I said, it stops. it goes through ways. We won in 2013, and then they have down years again. Then they win again. It starts building up again. Now it's on the other side. And last season was just a disaster. Again, obviously we have the pandemic and we have the scandal here with the Red Sox manager who had to leave. I don't know if you know about that scandal, but the cheating scandal with sign stealing with a different team, team, not with the Red Sox, with the Houston Astros, but it affected the Red Sox as well because he was a bench coach with the Astros at the time. So there's been a lot going on. So now the Red Sox are back to building again, and they brought back the manager. And I think Red Sox fans, again, it's funny because it's really, they've been silent for a few years. Again, here in Boston, it's about winning. And it's still a lot of Patriots talk, but Red Sox fans are still there. I think that, I think it will be back going when they start heading back upwards again. Red Sox fans will look at Henry in a positive manner. It really is about the winning, guys. It's about the winning and the losing. And like I said, and I've told you guys this off air, I've never seen a media quite like the Boston sports media. It's unique around the world. They are just negative no matter what you do. Even when you win, the Patriots here have won 6 Super Bowl titles, and they will nitpick through every single one of them. They'll nitpick through the Red Sox winning World Series. They will tell you that 2013 was lucky, and they'll explain why it was lucky. They won the World Series, guys, but they will tell you why they, basically give you reasons why they were lucky to win it. And that's how we are here. It actually all begins with the Red Sox and all those years of losing that the media and the fans here just, it's such a negative market to live in. It still is this way. It's very negative. And, and I still deal with it today. I'm a very positive person, so it's hard for me to deal with the negativity we get here. Like I said, it still goes on. Yeah.
Does Jacobs get a lot of hate over at the Bruins? Because obviously they haven't won the Stanley Cup for 10 years, and albeit they won the division last year. But the less we say about the 1920 hockey season, the better. But I know they won the. But does that caveat it, or because they've not won the cup? So Stanley hasn't arrived back in Boston for over 10 years. Is that a bit of a problem for them? Do they get the same hate as John Henry?
Jeremy Jacobs, now his son, but it started with Jeremy Jacobs.
Yeah.
Boy, did he get so much hate for years and years because the Bruins, before they won it, were known as a team that just wanted to make the playoffs, so Jacobs could get the gate receipts and the concessions for playoff games. That was the reputation that the Bruins had. Then they won it, and his son got involved, and there isn't as much now, but again, the Jacobs really aren't thought of highly here, and but it all goes back to those years before they won in 2011. That still stands. Bruins fans are probably and I'll be the first to admit it, along with Red Sox fans, your most loyal fans, but Bruins fans are extremely just skeptical. They're very skeptical because of ownership. They're very skeptical.
Seems like Robert Kraft is the only person that has any credibility there, then, doesn't it?
He's the only one that really does not get that kind of scrutiny. I mean, he has recently with the whole situation with Tom Brady leaving, but beyond that, he's thought of in a very different manner than the other three. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we said, let's bring it back to footy a little bit, like because we'll be here for about 4 hours otherwise, and people will be.
Sorry, everyone. Talk about sports.
Yeah,
I love it. It's my fault. It's my responsibility for that. Sorry.
in terms of John Henry, obviously, we touched on his 10 years. It took him to obviously win as a league, but it's like you said, Russ. It's the learning that he's done. Obviously, he didn't know football when he's joined. He's had to learn while he's been owner. But we've at Liverpool, we've started to see like a change in terms of the thinking behind signings. Like obviously, like we've just signed Thiago, which was surprised everyone. Obviously, we were linked with him for a long time, and the fact that we all thought that anyone over 29, say, wasn't a viable option because the resale value wouldn't be as great in terms of if you look at it as a business. So it's those type of things that he started to learn, and like trying to just like pick the best players. And like obviously Thiago's probably top 3 in the world as a midfielder. The signings of those type of players. Obviously he hasn't played as much this season as we want him to, but it's those type of signings that prove that he's serious about what he's doing. And obviously all the other signings that we've made in those 10 years, and if you look at the team now compared to then, it's like chalk and cheese. So he is serious about his ventures. It's just about him learning about the best way to do it, isn't it, in terms of structure and tactics.
Well, what's funny about this, I'm glad that you brought this up, because we talk about this with Fulham, because Fulham have a similar type of situation with the Cons. They don't want to sign anyone over the age of 28. It's actually 28, 29 at most, for similar reasons, but they've had to adjust. They brought in Babel a couple seasons ago that goes against what they normally do. And they've had to learn that you need to adjust a little bit to what your business model is. You have to have exceptions. And it sounds like that's what John Henry has done, because you can have all the pieces in place. It's funny, and sorry guys, I'll just bring the Patriots, and they've had to learn too that they'll bring in players that are a little bit older just to help them get over the line. And I think that John Henry has learned that.
Yeah, it's a good point.
No, it's a good point, and that's what I mean. Like signing those type of players I think for me, Thiago could play till he's 35. That's how good he is, and I mean, in the position he is, he could do that role. But anyway, we've just passed 30 minutes, so we'll finish up now with some score predictions. Jay, I'll come to you first.
Oh, I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but I'm just going to go 2-1. I got the Michelin game completely wrong when I predicted 4-0, so I'm going for 2-1.
I can't even remember what I said. I think I said 2-1. I think so. I was completely wrong as well.
It'll be a tough game.
Yeah, Russ, what are you thinking in terms of score predictions for tomorrow?
Well, I predicted 2-0 to Liverpool, so I'll go with that. I just find it hard. I know about your defensive issues, but if Alisson's back, that obviously changes a great deal. And so I'm going to go with 2-0 Liverpool, and I think it'll be tough, though. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think Fulham are going to make it difficult on Liverpool. And I think another factor, guys, and I think you guys probably already saw this with Liverpool at Anfield, I think fans coming back, even though it's a small amount, is going to make a difference for Fulham. Yeah. I think they're going to have that extra little –
I agree.
With them, that little extra motivation, because the supporters are going to be behind them. So
yeah,
I'm not saying that, I think that's a factor here. And as you guys were talking about, this is a crazy year. So could Fulham pull off an upset? I saw Aston Villa do that. And I would love to see that. I'm not going to predict that, but I do think that supporters being back at Craven Cottage is going to be huge for Fulham.
Yeah, well, we saw that firsthand against Wolves. Like, it's hard to explain how much that had an effect on our performance that night. I thought maybe 2-3%. It was more like 10-15%. The fact that we absolutely blew a good Wolves side away. But anyway, gents, I'm gonna go for 2-0. I mean, Russ has just said it, but that's what I've wrote down. So I'm sticking with it. Dan's just put in the chat there 3-1. But I'm hoping for an
just a nice, entertaining game of football.
Yeah, and back-to-back clean sheets, the first time since June. I think that's I'm praying we get that. But we'll be back tomorrow for team news reaction about 3:30, an hour before the game, and then we'll be back again after about 6:30ish for the match review. So thanks again, Jay, for jumping on as usual. Big thanks to Russ for getting up nice and early and sprightly early over in Boston for us to jump on here. And,
make sure everyone go check out Cottage Talk as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, go and check that out. And good luck to Fulham for the rest of the season, apart from tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. And same to Liverpool. And best of luck to you guys the rest of the season, not when you're playing against Fulham.
We'll get you back on when we play at Anfield.
Absolutely. Yeah. Please do, guys. I'd be happy to come back.
Cheers. See you in a bit, guys.